Hello everyone, I'm Aaron from DataStax, and today I'm going to take you through building a Gen AI application on DataStax Enterprise 6.9.0. Let's go. So the application we're going to build is one that I've actually done before. And if you've seen anything that we've done with generative AI on AstroDB, you know we've done some things involving like reg and searching by images and searching for images. So back in February, I created this app for a blog post, and it's called the car search app. And really what it does is it's just a Python app that runs on our AstroPy library. It uses the CLIP, or contrastive language image pre-training model, or sentence transformer from Hugging Face, and it will run on DSE 6.9. And essentially what it's going to do is just return images based on our search criteria. And it will use vector search to do that, as vector search is, what is used industry-wide to, maintain a local context for a Gen AI application. It's important to remember that for this application to work, we are going to need our 64-bit encoded username and password from our DSE 6.9.0 cluster that I built in Mission Control. If we want to have a look at it, you can see that I just have to sign in here. All right, here's my cluster, snakes and arrows, data center Far Cry, and I have 3 nodes. And this is on, yes, DSE 6.9.0. So we're in good shape there. Note that you can see I clearly have the data API enabled on my cluster. So if I have a look at the blog post here from February, and I kind of look through here, you can see that I have a link to the GitHub repository here. And really what we're going to do is kind of look through this, and we're going to follow some of these steps to make sure that we're kind of building everything the right way. But the first thing we're going to do is actually clone this repository locally. Now, I've already done that. So I can just have a look, and you can see that, yeah, we have all of our files and Python modules there. What I'm going to do first is, as we kind of show here, we're going to set our environment variables. Now, since we are running a Python app and we're using the Flask web environment to do that, I'm actually going to have this environment variable called Flask app. So I'm just going to do an export Flask app car search, just like that. Next, I'm going to also create one for my endpoint. Now, you'll notice that the variable is named AstraDB API endpoint. That's just because of that's kind of built into the application that way. This was originally designed to run on Astra, but we can still leverage that. And what I'm going to do is set that value to my to the data API endpoint on port 8181 from my my DSE 6.9 cluster. There, just like that. And the last piece I need is my token. Now, the tricky part about this is, as I mentioned, this is the 64 base encoded username and password along with the word Cassandra. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. So now I have all 3 of my variables needed here. Next, let's have a look at the code for the loader, because we have to load our data. So here's our code for the loader, and you can see this out in GitHub. And basically what this does is it brings in our token and our endpoint, creates a client connection, and then brings in a reference to the database. Once it has all that, the first thing it does is this create collection command. And it's going to create a collection or a vector-enabled table called car_images. We're going to have that set with 512 dimensional vector embeddings, so it's going to be able to support that. That number actually comes from our CLIP model as specified here, because that's the size of the vector embeddings that CLIP supports. And we want to actually match up by cosine, so that's what we're going to set as our metric here. So one last thing we need to do here is when it's defining the data API client, there are some things that are happening behind the scenes with the AstraDB endpoint that don't happen, or that we don't want to happen when we're using DSE. So what we need to do is we need to set this environment variable when we call or instantiate our data API client object, and we're going to set it to this constant of environment.dse. And that's because we're connecting to a DataStax Enterprise cluster, and that's going to tell Astra Pi not to do anything special or any extra like pre-processing with the API endpoint. Normally with Astra, you would have that happening, and we don't need that because we're not connecting to Astra. Okay, with that, we should be able to run our loader. And we can let that run. There you go. You can see that all of our car images are loading. All right. And if we want to verify the data that we've just loaded, we can jump out to our cluster using any local install of CQL shell, which I'll use right here. All right, there you are. You can see that we're on our snakes and arrows cluster. So let's use a default key space. Then you can say select star from car images, and we'll just say like limit 2. All right, so you can see that the embedding for our images are out here. This one in particular is 355.jpg, and that's this vector embedding here is what that JPEG goes ahead and processes as. So yeah, so I think we're all good here. Set. Let's go ahead and look at one more file here, and that's going to be this Astra Con Python module. And you can see that we are bringing in the application token and the API endpoint, but we also need to make that change here to not have a default Astra environment. So let's get rid of that and then make sure that we're using that environment equals that constant of environment.dse. And we can bring that in because we have this import from the Astra Pi constants library. So that gives us access to that environment variable that we can use the DSE constant from it. So with that set, I'm going to run Flask on port 8080. Okay, that looks good. Let's see, localhost 8080. Hey, there we go. Car search. Look at that. And now I can say, oh yeah, we have a bunch here. Red Tesla. And I can search, and with any luck, hey, we have a red Tesla. All right, all right. Yellow Mustang. And there we go. We have a yellow Mustang. All right, outstanding, outstanding. One example that I always like to use with this is the ability to search by image. And I have this image called My Car with Ladder. So it's right here, and basically it is just what you think it is. I went out to buy a ladder, and I realized I didn't have my wife's SUV. I had my Ford Fusion. So what I'm going to do is actually use this image to perform a search. So if I go up here and I say choose file, let's go ahead and find My Car with Ladder, just like that. All right, and then we can click search. So you can see that my image of my car with the door open and a ladder sticking out the side actually did process into an embedding, and that vector embedding was matched up for similarity. Our data set came back with this image of a Ford Fusion, just kind of like my car. How about that? So yeah, so that's the app, and we have this fully running on DataStax Enterprise. So that should do it. For more information, be sure to check out my GitHub repo at github.com/AAR0NP car image search. And of course, you can also check out the post that's on the DataStax blog of just datastax.com/blog/car shopping with Gen AI on AstraDB. For more information on DataStax Enterprise, just head out to datastax.com/products/datastax-enterprise. There you can find all the information you need, including downloads and documentation. Thank you and have a great day.